One of the most famous cold cases is the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, which she has been considered missing for 16 years. But another case was all the way from 1947, which was the disappearance of Elizabeth Short. Days after, the police found her body in half. To this day, no one has been convicted for murdering her. What these unsolved cases have in common is that what they needed was more public attention and to be looked at through a new perspective. Kristen Smart was a typical teenage girl with a bright future. She was born in Augsburg, Germany. Her parents were both teachers for the military as well. She was also the oldest of 3 children. When she was a child, her family then moved to Stockton, California.
So when we first moved here, we moved into some apartments. We were going to have a house built down the street, and that fell through, so we bought this house. But to keep them busy, because normally you move to, and when you're in town, kids are signed up for different sports or to do things, but you can't do it late, so I just signed them up to be in the Nutcracker.
Kristen's father then explained some activities that she would love to do.
She was real interested in athletics. I mean, she was a good swimmer. She wasn't competitive at the level of our other 2 children afterwards. But a good swimmer, and she liked volleyball. And she did things with the volleyball kids.
Kristen Smart graduated high school in 1995, but everything changed when she went to university. She never expected this new beginning in life to be the end of her chapter. She went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo University. She went to study architecture. But one night, she wanted to have fun like any other college student. She went with a friend, but when she left the party, she walked home alone. But after that night, she was never seen again. Right when she disappeared, her case wasn't handled well. The officers on the campus sent this letter to her family. This letter exposes the attitude of police officers, especially on how they approached her case. Many students disagreed on how they approached the case and then even protested, but no one really had answers or evidence to help the case, so she remained missing for 20 years. I think one of the issues that could have occurred when Kristen's case was a cold case is that there were too many cases at the time for detectives, as always. One detective expressed how she would witness 16 of her colleagues often handling 24 cases or more at the time, which was far above the federal recommendation. This amount of cases is hard to keep track of information, especially small details. This leads to problems organizing and leads to not finding a solution. Naturally, investigators want to find the killer or abuser. But study shows that if a case seems difficult, this can lead to a cognitive reaction that's based on pessimism. This then leads to the lack of motivation and effort to continue the hunt for the criminals. This data exposes the daily life of detectives and cold case investigators. This is one of the reasons why cold cases remain cold, like Kristen Smart's. Many may argue that DNA was the main savior for this unsolved cases, but I like to think otherwise. I think what will realive them is being exposed to the media. A detective described how using media became a part of the strategy to find criminals. If detectives are stuck with cold cases that lack information, and the media can also allow witnesses with new information, or anyone that hasn't come forward before, be able to use the knowledge that they have to help find the justice for the case, or for any case, really. The most accurate form of media, though, is to bring back a case through podcasts. It may seem odd at first, but they aren't only a source of entertainment. This shows podcasts can spread information fast or ask for help fast. They also rethink or look at the evidence from the past in a new perspective.
We are also thankful for the selfless contributions of Chris Lambert, his Your Own Backyard,
podcast which brought not only new information, and also the needed light.
Because of the podcast, they were able to reveal new information. Kristen finally received the justice she deserves. Turns out, a classmate of Kristen's walked her home that night of her disappearance. His name is Paul Flores. The police couldn't convict him at the time because they never had enough information. But the podcast found enough information to convict Paul Flores and his father. Turns out, his father also helped him hide the body of Kristen Smart. Kristen Smart simply wanted a life. Her case is an example of how cold cases are an issue. But the solution to these problems aren't just simply DNA. What they really need is finding justice through podcasts.